start the recording, just edit from there anyways. But yeah, I'm in Colombia. I'm in Medellin. I've been here since February. I really cannot complain. It's a beautiful place, amazing people, great food. But trying to get back slowly but surely. We'll get back to there.
Yeah, no, and then we're trying to get out. And actually, my grandma was actually born in Colombia, like way back in the day. So if I get my mom, basically, it's called like a citizenship, like by descent, then I can get it. So might be a chance, might be a Colombian citizen, just like to throw that into like the collection.
Well, which visa would you be going for, opting for? Because I know there's a lot of them.
No, this would be just actually to get like a citizenship.
Oh, okay. So you'd be bypassing that.
Correct. Yeah.
Oh, okay.
I'll have like full access and stuff like that. Hopefully, because it was my grandma, and then the only way that you can become a Colombian citizen is if your parent is a citizen. So I would have to convince my mom to basically go through all the paperwork, and she's been here in the U.S. for such a long time, like huge patriot. So hopefully, and then if she gets it, then I'm hoping that, okay, well, since my parent is, then I can get it. So we'll see. So I've been trying to collect documents and all that kind of stuff.
Gotcha. So if you can show it through your bloodline and your family, then they'll just give you the citizenship. You don't have to go through the residency or anything like that.
Yeah.
That's so nice.
I mean, I'm hoping, but Kirsten, as my wife, if she wanted to get it, then she would have to live in Colombia for 2 years, if it all works out. So it's like, well, we might have to live there for 2 years, if you want.
Yeah, I think there's like an expedited process if you're married to someone that's a Colombian citizen. So I'm not sure how that would work in your situation, but it's so flexible down here.
Really? That's good. All right. Anyways, so Liberland.
Yeah, let's talk about it. But yeah, tell me a little bit about yourself too and your background. So, because the audience probably doesn't know who you are yet. So like, what do you do? How'd you get involved with Liberland?
Yeah, sure. So in 2015, as a lot of people, we hear about Bitcoin and stuff like that. We follow on the narrative, getting involved with this whole decentralized movement and stuff like that. So after that, I started working for a Bitcoin ATM company. So I'm the sales and marketing director for this company called American Crypto. Mm-hmm. So I'm based here in DC. So basically, we're finding a bunch of locations, for like these Bitcoin ATMs, put cash in. You get Bitcoin marketing, telling people to come, buy, it's convenient, all that kind of stuff. Now we have like over 100 ATMs. So, but anyways, about 2.5 years ago, really getting into the whole idea of, let's say blockchain and like a decentralized movement and stuff like that. And it's just like, how can you put that, let's say governance and governing on the blockchain and stuff like that. Ironically, when I got involved with Bitcoin back in 2015 was also the year that this Czech politician, his name is Vít Amjedlíka. As an American, I have such an issue. I'm pronouncing Czech last names. So if he's listening to this, he's like, But anyways, in 2015, he essentially he lost an election in the Czech Republic, and essentially his basically the guy that he lost to said, you want all these crazy like decentralized and like libertarian philosophies. Why don't you go to your own thing? Why don't you create your own country? And then President Vít, he wasn't president at the time. It was just, okay, let me go find land that's unclaimed. So he went onto Wikipedia, ironically, found land that was unclaimed, went there with his wife and best friend, and then stuck this flag in the ground on April 13th, which was Thomas Jefferson's birthday. So me being in the blockchain world, the Bitcoin world, I kind of worked with the Libertarian Party. I used to live in the state of Ohio, so I was working for that party for a bit. All these things coming together, hearing about that, I'm just like, oh, this is really cool. No idea if it's going to go anywhere, but let's see what's happening. So back in 2017, there was this conference called Anarchapulco, basically in Acapulco, Mexico. I don't know if you've ever heard of that.
It sounds familiar. I probably haven't though, but who knows?
Okay. So basically a bunch of kind of like anarcho-capitalists and like Bitcoin millionaires, they'll come out to like this 5-star resort or, on the beach and, and we kind of, pop our collars and talk about how cool we are, with Bitcoin and, all these political theories and stuff like that. But anyways, by 2017, the Liberland delegation was actually, doing some cool things here and there, working with different governments and stuff like that. And they were speaking at that conference. And I was like, you know what? I want to get involved in this. I don't know where it's going to go, but let's get involved. So I go there and, I'm doing a few interviews there, since I'm working for a Bitcoin ATM company at the time. And so a lot of people, think that's cool because back in 2017, there was not that many like Bitcoin ATM companies. Then some people was like, oh, wow, cool. And I was like, cool, awesome. And I got a hold of a Liberland passport for Ron Paul. I'm sure your fans know about Ron Paul and everything like that. And I was like, this is really cool. Ron Paul has a passport for like this new country, So like, I guess this is kind of serious, like they print it out, looks like legit passport. And I took a picture of it. Well, the delegation found out that I took a picture of Ron Paul's passport. And of course, on any passport, there's private information and stuff like that. And so they're like, hey, can you like delete this picture and stuff like that? It has his private information on it. Kind of like awkward, like, hey, please. And I was like, yeah, sure. By the way, my name is Joey Langenbrunner. I want to get involved. So it was actually kind of embarrassing and kind of awkward, but it was actually the way that I started a conversation, with these crazy Liberland guys trying to do like this country thing. Mm-hmm. So, and then, yeah.
That's awesome. No, I've heard of Liberland before. It's very cool thing that you guys got going on there. So how much progress has it made since 2015? Like where is it at today?
Yeah. So, we had our 5th year anniversary today. So, or this year. So we've been around for about 5.5 years now. Tomorrow we're doing a big conference called Floating Man around, especially due to the whole COVID thing. It's mostly just a Zoom event. But so we've been around for 5.5 years from now. The things that we have established since then is essentially we have opened over 100 representative offices around the world. Mm-hmm. So I'm here in DC, so this is basically like our de facto representative office. So we don't have an embassy or anything like that since we are not recognized by the U.S. yet. Though we do have a few embassies in a few other countries that have recognized us. The only one I can talk about, and this can be kind of controversial to say if this is a country or not, but Somaliland. So like 2016, 2017, I forget the year, Liberland was essentially the first unrecognized country to recognize a unrecognized country as Somaliland. Mm-hmm. Somaliland, like they've been around for over 25 years. They're basically right north of Somalia. They have their own government for them. They have their own currency. They have their own military. They've been independent for over 25 years. They actually respect private property, which is kind of kind of cool. They actually like free markets, and their economy is actually doing very, very well. Still kind of a poor country, but they're doing very, very well compared to Somalia, which is basically just like gang warfare. But Somalia is recognized and not Somaliland. So anyways, Somaliland is getting more recognized by a few other countries and probably going to be fully recognized maybe in 5 to 10 years. So we have an embassy there. We have a few other embassies and stuff like that. From 2015 to this date, we have about 625,000 applications to become a citizen, which is quite a lot. So if you think about let's say the residents of Liechtenstein, they have maybe 80 or 90,000 citizens. In Monaco, they have 33,000 citizens. If you think about the size of Liberland, which I'll go into the area of Liberland a little bit here.
So you're oversaturated.
Yeah, we have way too many applications. Way too many applications. So we have a lot of people who are angry at the fact that, like, hey, where's my passport? Where's this? And it's like, dude, we have so much to do. Um, as we're basically like a startup. So, any like entrepreneurs out there, when you're starting up something, you need a lot of money. So when you're starting a whole country, we need tens of millions of dollars, hundreds of millions if we can, just basically, it goes into details. We try to be as conservative as possible when it comes to, spending quote unquote like taxpayer monies,
Right.
Donations and stuff like that. Um, but we need a lot of money. So having basically all the kind of volunteers to just go out there and contact all these people who fill out the application, we're not there yet. If you want to get involved, you can email me at usa@gov.ll.land, or find us at an event, or come to us and say, hey, I can do this for you. Then you can work yourself way up to become a citizen, or you can essentially, pay taxes voluntarily, with Bitcoin or like other donation, and then we can talk about you becoming a citizen then. So really the only way to become a citizen right now is either work your ass off for it, or basically spending money,
Right.
like contributing the cost. If you're busy and you're wealthy, here's a bunch of money, great. Me, I'm not like a crazy millionaire or anything like that. So, I've been working, almost every single day. It's like a part-time job for me, basically spending 20 hours a week on this project, doing interviews here, doing calls here, doing stuff in DC, rubbing a few elbows with, senators and congressmen and stuff like that here. As you can tell, my mouth is just running and running and running, because I'm really excited about this project. It's a huge part of my life, and we're just doing like a million different things. So I don't want to take up too much of this interview.
No,
here,
don't worry. I'm happy to talk about this. So how big is it, or how small is it? Like, how much like land is there, or like where is it located specifically?
Yeah.
What's the geography?
Yeah. So not a lot of people in kind of like in the Americas are not very familiar with the Balkan region of Europe. So the Balkans is countries like Croatia, Serbia, like Bulgaria, Greece, kind of that area. You don't hear much about that region, and it's actually a very poor region of Europe. But basically, a long time ago, there was this nation called Yugoslavia. Yugoslavia is basically a failed socialist republic. Okay, so we basically combined Serbia, Croatia, kind of a few other countries. Historically, so basically, Liberland is in between Serbia and Croatia. Okay, so historically, the border between Croatia and Serbia was the Danube River. I'm sure everyone has always heard of the Danube River. So this is where this gets interesting. When it was all one country, so Serbia and Croatia was all part of Yugoslavia, obviously the borders didn't matter. During that time, they did some engineering projects and changed the flow of the river. Okay? Didn't matter, the border technically changed, but it was one country, so it didn't matter. The state failed. When it failed, deciding on where the border is, okay, so the river used to flow over here, but the river is now flowing over here. So where the river is flowing now, if that's the border, that gives a lot more land to Serbia. But if you go back to the original borders, then Croatia still has all the land that they used to have. So it's made this weird situation where if you look at a Google map on the northern border between Croatia and Serbia, from really any Western country, it's all over the place. It has the Danube River just right here, and the borders is just like, doesn't make any sense. But let's say if you get like an open VPN and say, hey, I'm in Serbia, or I'm in Russia, or any of their allies, you look at the border and it's just the Danube River. Still to this day, they haven't figured out their borders. So, those a lot of tension, a lot of violence, a lot of death that happened after the fall of Yugoslavia, and essentially, when they signed a treaty, it basically said if they claimed this little land where Liberland is, then they lose claim to this larger portion of land that was across the river. So it made it into a situation where you got land that both Croatia and Serbia claimed, and a smaller piece of land where none of the countries claimed. And it's been unclaimed since the fall of Yugoslavia. So, like, I forget, like 26 plus years. I can't do the math in my head really quick. And it's just been unclaimed for like such long. So there where Liberland is currently today, the last country to claim to essentially have jurisdiction over that was Yugoslavia. Yugoslavia doesn't exist anymore. So, and they're pointing fingers like, well, who owns this land? Croatia is pointing across the river to Serbia, and Serbia is pointing, over to Croatia. They both don't want the land, because if they claim it, then they lose claim over here. So Vít Angelika, the Czech politician who's the president now, claimed it. But anyways, it's about 2.7 square miles. Okay. Mm-hmm. So it's basically, probably the best way to think about it is it's about 2.5 times the size of Monaco. So Vatican City is the smallest country, then you got Monaco, and then you would have Liberland. So it's very small. So if you have any fans out there that are fans kind of like city-states, it's basically what it is.
Okay, gotcha. So it won't be able to actually have enough capacity for like that many actual citizens to live there or do anything, but you'd be able to, theoretically, offer citizenship and passports, right? Like, or is there like a restriction based on lands? Like, I'm not quite sure how that would work.
Yeah, so we can't have a crazy amount of citizens. So, if you think about Monaco has about 33,000 citizens. So if Liberland is like roughly around 2.5 times the size, maybe we can have like 100,000 citizens. Mm-hmm. But anything more than that is just too much. But we get into a situation where, I think Liechtenstein is a great example. So Liechtenstein, has a freer economy, and whatnot. So there's a lot of industry in there. So there's a lot of Germans who cross the border into Liechtenstein every single day to work and then drive out. Mm-hmm. They're not living in Liechtenstein. They're not citizens. They're citizens of Germany, but they drive into Liechtenstein every single day to work and then drive out. So we're probably going to see a situation like that where we have, maybe 50. Yeah. So basically, and again, this is a really poor region of Europe. So basically the economic development in the area is going to be huge, especially with, we're going to be promoting like free economy and, like free trade and stuff like that. So we're going to see Serbians and Croatians kind of crossing into Liberland, working, and then driving back out. So you don't necessarily need to have 100,000 people living, within the country. You can have, you can have maybe 1 million people living outside, let's say maybe like in 40, 50 years from now, you can have like 1 million people basically living in the suburbs outside, and then, a portion of them driving into Liberland to work and then driving back out to live, and then kind of creating that kind of ecosystem.
Gotcha. So what's the benefit of being a citizen of Liberland and holding that passport? Like, what does it give you?
So right now, it might give you access to a few countries. Kind of as an example, I got a friend who went into Costa Rica with his Liberland passport. Border guard was like, what's this? I've never heard of Liberland. Tells the border guard to, do a quick Google search. All right, looks legit. All right, 30 days in. But if you go, but let's say if you go to like any Western country, let's say like the US or Canada or the UK, and you show your Liberland passport, they're going to look at you like you have two heads. Like, we never heard of this. This isn't a real country. So we're getting in that gray area of this document. We really don't encourage our citizens who do have a passport to go out there and use it for travel. We're not at that level yet. Maybe for 5 or 6 countries, you can do that, but that's not something that we're public about to begin with. So, the passport isn't really worth much at the moment, but the more recognized, but basically the more recognition we get, the more valuable that passport is going to get. So, if you have a U.S. passport, obviously you can basically visit a majority of countries visa-free. You can live in the U.S. With a Liberland passport. We have not developed the land yet, so you can't really quote unquote live there. And the passport is strong. It's a very weak passport. In the passport industry, you would call it like a tier D passport. Not much access. So let's say if you're thinking about countries like Palestine or like Taiwan or like Kosovo or like Abkhazia or like Somaliland, if you have a passport from one of those countries, the majority of countries are going to look at you with, two heads, because it's controversial or their diplomatic status isn't up yet, they're still working on it. And, with Taiwan, obviously the whole China thing. Yeah.
Right. Can you even fly into Liberland, or do you have to fly into a neighboring country?
So we did purchase like an old Yugoslavian airport, kind of near the area. But we definitely have to do a lot more development to get, the big planes in. So if you have like a small private plane, you can fly into, that. But again, it's an old like socialist airport. But if you want to come to Liberland, basically you would just fly into like Belgrade, Serbia, and then it's about like 2 hours away.
Gotcha. So usually when I do these podcasts, I talk about blockchain. So let's
get into it.
Let's incorporate blockchain somehow. Because I feel like with Liberland, there's a lot of things that, maybe both of those can help each other with. I feel like you could potentially put citizenship or like a passport like on the blockchain for Liberland, or you could do a registry, or you could get creative and do some kind of treasury or governance system with blockchain. Is that stuff that you guys have kind of pondered over time as, blockchains become more popular, or is it something you're actually doing? What are you guys' thoughts?
Yeah. So our currency is called the Liberland Merit. So if you want to become a citizen, you need to essentially acquire 5,000 of these Liberland merits. Right now, we're pegging one merit to $1. So, as I go, as we talked about in the past, if you want to become a citizen, and let's say, you have money to throw around, you don't have much time, you can essentially donate $5,000. And then in return, you would get the 5,000 Liberland merits. And what you would have to do with those 5,000 Liberland merits is stake it on our blockchain. Now let's talk about our blockchain. Our blockchain is still in development. As you know, when it comes to any blockchain projects, there's a lot of controversy around it. There's a lot of fishy things around it. We're still working on getting that initiated, actually. So the whole governance of that, we're still kind of working on. We've dealt with a few companies that kind of given us pitches, did some designs and stuff like that, but they'll come in time. We're hoping to have kind of like an MVP, a minimal viable product, by the end of this year, hopefully. But essentially what our governance is doing is basically everything that you were saying. So when you have the 5,000 merits staked, that means you can vote. So if you're voting for, let's say, who is president or who is vice president, you're going to have like members of Congress, which me, Joe Langenbrunner, I will be running, up for Congress. So essentially, if the more votes you send to me, and then I'm good. Are your fans or you very knowledgeable kind of like in the EOS space?
Yeah.
So basically, like we forked the EOS chain. So when you think about the 21 block producers, that is essentially 21 members of Congress.
Okay.
So, this is subject to change, but it kind of gives you a rough idea. Let's say I'm one of the block producers, meaning I'm one of the Congress members. If you stake more of your Liberland merits towards me, that's more votes I have. And then we're going to be tallying up the votes every quarter. So EOS tallies up the vote, I believe like every 3 seconds. We're going to be tallying up the votes every quarter. So basically every quarter, who is a member of the Congress could change, and then the Congress will be essentially enacting, policies and laws and stuff like that, and the population could vote on that. But dealing with those details are stuff that we're still kind of figuring out. What is the best system? What's the best incentive system? Is there going to be any payouts if you stake more merits? If you have more merits, then theoretically your vote could be more, and that would give more incentive to pay more taxes. Things like that. We're trying to figure out, which is really, really cool.
Mm-hmm. No, it sounds really cool. Is that something that's like available to like buy or view like on Coin Market Cap, or is it all private?
Yeah. So right now, we do have tradable Liberland merits that are running on the Bitcoin Cash chain right now as an SLP token. We're not sure if that's going to continue or not, but essentially that is unstaked merits. So we had that trading on one or two exchanges in the past, but we got some controversial, there's some controversial things around that because we haven't launched our blockchain yet, and so we closed down those listings. But we're thinking about putting those listings back up for those tokens that are already circulating. Those amounts are I don't remember that amount, but that is essentially unstaked merits. So we kind of got an idea of what it can buy, what it can sell for. So sometimes it would sell for $2, or sometimes it would sell for 50 cents or 10 cents and stuff like that. If you wanted to buy staked merits, then you would go to Liberland.org and donate there, and then you would get staked merits. And once you get up to 5,000 merits, then you would put in the application to become a citizen, and that's kind of staked on a centralized server. But obviously, we're working on our decentralized blockchain.
Gotcha. Yeah, there's a lot of things you could do with blockchain. I've had a lot of, I guess, philosophical talks, theoretical talks about what you could do in terms of jurisdiction with the blockchain.
Yeah.
Because if you own Bitcoin, for example, and I'm in the US one day, the next day I'm in Colombia, does the Bitcoin really move? Did I move money outside the country? Where is the Bitcoin? I mean, Bitcoin's on the blockchain. What jurisdiction is that in? Is that in a US jurisdiction? Is it in a Colombian jurisdiction? It's not something they've really clarified. So it'd be kind of interesting how they would look at if you let's say formed an entity and put it on the blockchain that Liberland has, and it's a Liberland incorporated company, or you have your health information on the Liberland blockchain, or some other asset or entity that you have or that you form. What kind of jurisdictional benefits or pitfalls would that create? I feel like this is a really interesting topic to bring up, especially with Liberland, because it's kind of independent in a lot of ways, not recognized fully yet, obviously, but it feels like the two kind of go together in some ways, if that makes sense.
Yeah. So to answer a few of your questions when it comes to jurisdiction, obviously that's a hard one. It's on the blockchain. Is that moving? I would argue that's not. But when it comes to any tax purposes, and obviously I'm not giving any tax advice as a U.S. citizen, but if you're a citizen of any country and you have, a Bitcoin, then you probably should, go with, your country.
Right.
Outside the U.S., since the U.S. is the only country, I think China is now, but taxes its citizens everywhere. So, you being in Colombia, you still have to fill out, a U.S. tax. So let's say if I'm living in Colombia, and let's say I'm not a U.S. citizen, if I'm living in Colombia at the time, I have to basically go by, Colombia's, tax laws. But, let's say I live in a different country every single month and I really don't have a residence. What's the case there? I don't have the answer. But it would really comes down to what's your citizenship and what's your residence and what's those tax laws. The good thing about Liberland is that there is no capital gains, there is no income tax, there is nothing like that. All taxes are voluntary, and we have certain incentives that obviously this is something all in theory, all theoretical at this point. But this is something that we're working on. What's a good incentive to pay taxes, instead of just like, well, it's this arbitrary amount, write the check, here you go. What's a good incentive? So really when it comes to our blockchain, our blockchain governance, Liberland wants to be the 21st century model on how states should operate. Mm-hmm. Is this a new idea when it comes to any other jurisdictions? Not really. You got the Marshall Islands that launched their own currency on the blockchain. You got the Bahamas, they launched their own currency on the blockchain. Of course, you got China talking about it. You got Russia talking about it. You got Iran, especially with the sanctions, talking about it. Mm-hmm. And then you got, I think Bermuda is putting all of their properties on the blockchain. So who owns this property, who owns that property, all verified on the blockchain type stuff. So this isn't anything new. Having, almost every single government service and body and entity running on one blockchain, that's cool. Doing the first to do it, is it going to be successful? Hopefully, but I think it's going to be a huge improvement, because we're going to be doing like ship registry, car registry, obviously like citizenship, residency, or maybe if they have like a work permit, or how many merits are owned. Our judicial system is going to be on the blockchain. This is one thing that is really cool. So like, let's say I have 20,000 merits staked. All right. Mm-hmm. And I get, and I get sued because I ripped someone off, and we're going through this different, this different court case on the blockchain. I'm not going to go into the details of how that's operated. Obviously that's something that, has to be carefully done. But let's say if I'm at fault, some of my Liberland merits can be taken away just like that. Mm-hmm. If I'm truly at fault. So that also brings an incentive to, treat your fellow Liberlanders and the people around you in a good behavior too. Mm. So if you're staking that, if you're paying taxes, you get more of a vote, and then other incentives, but it also brings more accountability too. So tying that all in with, our like philosophical and political theories and stuff like that, it's definitely up to debate. I wouldn't say there's one right answer because we don't know the answer yet.
Gotcha. How would the judicial process work? Like if someone in Liberland was stealing everyone else's Cheerios and he was getting blamed for it, not that that's a crime necessarily. How does that process supposed to work if it is on the blockchain? How do you separate?
Yeah. So let's say you steal my Cheerios, Brandon. Mm-hmm. Then basically I would put in a request on the blockchain. So let's say I send a message to, let's say the first tier. I think we're going to have 3 tiers. So kind of one tier. And then if one of the parties isn't happy about it, then it moves to the second tier and then the third tier. So I think how it's going to go, and obviously I don't have any of the details because it's not done yet, and obviously this can change over the next 10, 20 years after it's implemented to get the right thing. But, let's say I send in a request on the blockchain at this date. Mm-hmm. Here's Brandon's crime, and here's pictures, here's all this evidence and stuff like that. Then you get a notification, that says, Brandon, you're served. You stole Joey's Cheerios, allegedly. Mm-hmm. Let's say it's... let's say you have a committee of maybe, 10 judges or something like that. You don't know the names of, they don't know you. They look at the case and maybe they say, you know what, Joey, I don't think this is really worth our time. Who cares? Brandon, sorry for, wasting your time. Mm-hmm. Hey, no, this was 2 tons of Cheerios. This is some serious, amount of Cheerios. I'm not happy with this decision. Then, I could, push it up to tier 2, and then here's more evidence, here's this, and, actually, Brandon, those 2 tons, so we're going to take away 500 merits from you and give it to Joey. Boom, done. Maybe you're not happy with that decision. Because it's dude, it's Cheerios. My family, is hungry. It's Cheerios. Go ahead, 500 merits. Maybe merits are trading at, $10 a merit at that time. Is that really worth it? Mm-hmm. And you can put it up to tier 3, and then, all right, maybe this is our final decision then. How to become a judge, or how to be, I don't know all the details of that.
So it's kind of like an appeals process almost, like with the tier system. You can move up to a higher court if you really think it needs to, or...
Yeah, and kind of give you an idea when it comes to issues between, let's say, like businesses. The best jurisdiction for that right now is Singapore. Singapore, they can decide their cases usually within 6 months, and that's the best. If we have a way to, let's say, decide, any corporate issues between corporate in person and corporate, and have that in less than 6 months, that's going to be huge. People want decisions faster these days. People don't have patience. We want our food now. We order like DoorDash. We want our emails now. We want our texts now. We want to be on time. We want this now. We're a now culture. I want a decision now. And of course, here from the U.S., being in the U.S., I don't know if you, ever been in, if you've ever been sued or anything like that. I haven't either.
I'm aware that litigation's expensive and time.
Yeah, it's expensive and time consuming. Yeah,
and it's common in the U.S. So
yeah, so if we can speed that up, then that's a good idea. And is it better for the judges to actually know who you are, or is it better for them not to know who you are? Well, this is a person anonymous. You don't see any details on the people, and you just see, here's the facts, and here's the pictures of the Cheerios, and this person, with their face, like blurred out. Is that a better way to make a decision? Instead of just me and you. Well, I don't like the way he looks.
Mm-hmm.
So these are all things that are in question, and I'm not saying that Liberland is going to have the answer for every political or like governance issue, and neither is Liberland going to be kind of like a Bitcoin blockchain, like decentralized utopia or anything like that. But we're going to try to move the ball further. Liberland wants to be the 21st century model on how a state should operate. Okay. A 21st century model. What's a 22nd, century model? I don't know. But with all this movement in blockchain technology, all these other governments, that are starting to look at it, implementing it, for currency or like property or, or stocks and bonds and stuff like that, which are happening. So like, this isn't anything new. It is new, but it's not, because this world is moving so fast. Can we move the ball, to the next court? We've been playing ball in this court here in this system for such a long time. Let's move it to a new court.
Gotcha. Yeah, that's what I was going to ask you next is like, what, in the end, what's the end goal for Liberland? Like, what does it want to hopefully achieve? But that makes a lot of sense. And hopefully you guys get there. It seems like you're on the right track.
Yeah, I think so. I mean, as I tell, our U.S. teams, so basically, if you're based in the U.S. and you want to get involved, you should definitely get a hold of me. But we have a lot of people here in the U.S. and so like every week we'll get on a call, and afterwards I'll always remind people like, all right, I know this happened and that was unfortunate, but this and this happened and that is fantastic. So as long as we're moving forward, this is good. So it's like kind of like a week to week, like day to day, getting this, together, getting this, like right now we're trying to work on getting so basically we're trying to team up with a congressman and trying to get a letter in front of Trump. Mm-hmm. We got the letter written out, what's going to be in this letter, how are we going to phrase this, doesn't matter our opinion of Trump or, or anything like that. It really doesn't matter. It's apolitical. Or just, I think 2 years ago, we got a bill in the Illinois State House, to essentially promote basically saying that it's encouraging the development of Liberland. So like a U.S. state can't come out and recognize like Liberland, but we've seen things where states would pass laws or cities or other jurisdictions in the U.S. would pass laws, saying, hey, the State Department should recognize this country or should, encourage this development or encourage this, it's something that, pertains not in the U.S. So we had a bill in the Illinois State House 2 years ago. Didn't really have any ground game and like that, and it got held up. In one of the mini committees in Illinois.
Everything.
So, yeah. So, like these are the things we have to do. So, like I've had many meetings with various like lobbying organizations, here in Capitol Hill and stuff like that. They're very expensive, sometimes kind of shady, but dealing with like the political world and diplomacy is fun and it is interesting. The many times our delegation has been up to the UN as well. We can't get into the UN yet, but if one country from the UN recognizes us, and then we could essentially become an observer state in the UN, like Kosovo, Palestine, Taiwan, and then that would actually get us in the UN. Once that happens, it's like game over. Then it's very serious business. So like that's like the big hump we're trying to get. But right now, what my focus is just getting our blockchain governance up and going. Been hitting it hard, trying to get the right people in the right room to make this happen. To get the right coders, to get the right people, to talk about theory. The right, making sure that the president is happy. Is a big thing. Until we get our governance up and running, we're kind of like in a de facto, dictatorship. So like diplomacy wise, that's not good until we have a democratically elected president. So
a lot of things get done in a dictatorship.
That's true.
So
yeah,
maybe it's a blessing in disguise.
Well, yeah, maybe that's why he's taking his time on it.
But for people that do want to be more involved in helping Liberland, grow, accomplish its goals, like what kind of things are you looking for? Are you looking for people to promote it? Are you looking for people to like be like this ambassador that can go out in their country or state or province? Are you looking for people that can do like DevOps work and work on the blockchain? Or do you have anything in particular?
So if you think about a country and what it needs, its needs are infinite. Even last call, we were talking about, hey, how can we get on Eurovision? Maybe we can get some indie artist to, sing songs about Liberland and say they're from Liberland and get onto Eurovision. I'm trying to work on kind of like a soccer or like football team for Liberland, because obviously in Europe, if you don't have a soccer team or like football team, like who cares? Like you're not real. Do you have? Did you make a lot of money on some altcoins or Bitcoin or stuff like that? Because we can definitely use those funds. Do you have any political connections? Were you a former congressman? Are you a lawyer? Because if we're dealing with Liberland merit and, what is the SEC going to think? I've had many meetings with lawyers on that. It's infinite, You can be a musician and help out. You can be an ex-politician. You can, you can be a Bitcoin millionaire. You can be a blockchain developer. You can be just your average Joe that is obsessed with this and, is willing to do some groundwork. Infinite possibilities, which is really cool. Gotcha.
Yeah, it sounds like you guys just kind of need a little bit of everything, which is reasonably understandable. Obviously, you're building a country, so there's a lot of moving parts that go with that. But yeah, happy to help as much as I can too. I know a lot of people, I think, so maybe I can find someone that would be interested too.
We got a lot of support in Latin America for sure. A lot of Brazilians, actually. A lot of Brazilians. They
why Brazilians?
Just a lot of them are really down with kind of your libertarian thought, with all the political issues that they've been dealing with.
I think they're done with their government.
Yeah. So, and we sent some Bitcoin Cash, to a few cities down there to get them some food, during this COVID stuff like that. So we're trying to, because if we're trying to do like MoneyGram or anything like that, why? So like, we're literally sending cryptocurrencies down to Brazil to help them out. And then ever since we started to do that, kind of like a Twitter following, from like Brazilians, we're just like shooting, like out the roof. And so like, I swear, like half of our fans on Twitter are like these like awesome, like Brazilians. Mm-hmm. So if that shows you like how global our movement is, it isn't just a Czech politician, it isn't just me in the US,
right?
It's also that Brazilian, we got a lot of people from like the Middle East. We got a lot of people from India. We got a lot of people from like the Philippines, from Australia, South Korea. We're really a global movement. And that's the cool thing about it. It's very decentralized, so like our US team, we can, we basically decide what to do. We got a great African, delegation that is, they're doing a fantastic job. And, of course, like our European team is doing great. Our team in the Middle East is doing fantastic. Our Southeast Asian team is it's a really decentralized movement. And that's the really cool thing about Liberland. Mm-hmm. We aspire to, build a country off blockchain, building governance that is decentralized. And already, we are a decentralized movement. And I think that's really cool.
Yeah, it's amazing to see that you have so much support from, around the globe in a lot of different places, all coming together, to work on this project. It's awesome. In the emails, you mentioned something about a foundation or the foundation that you wanted to talk about as well.
Yeah.
What was that exactly?
Yeah, so I'm the chair of the Liberland Aid Foundation. We're a 501c3 nonprofit based in the U.S. And essentially, we do humanitarian projects in the name of like Liberland, I guess like diplomacy. So, we just sent about $20,000 worth of aid down to Haiti. As I said before, we sent, like a few $1,000s worth of Bitcoin cash, down to Brazil. We've done some projects in other Caribbean islands. We have donated a lot of COVID supplies to both Serbia and Croatia, and a few other countries, in Europe. Especially with everything that's going on, all these countries are really desperate for help and stuff like that. So kind of gives us a weird opportunity to take advantage of that situation. But if you go to Liberland Foundation, actually, let me make sure that URL is correct. It's been a long time.
Yeah, you can always send it to me later.
Yeah. So it's liberlandfoundation.org. You can go there, check out all our things. And of course, we're huge, on donating with Bitcoin and other cryptocurrencies. To be honest, most of our donations come in through crypto. So if you are a U.S. citizen and you want to, have a nice write-off on your taxes, then donating to Liberland Aid Foundation is honestly one of the best ways to really help Liberland and really see us doing positive work. Because if these countries are seeing us do good work in their communities, maybe they'll want a meeting with us. Right.
No, that's awesome. It's cool to hear. I'll definitely have to check that out, and shoot me the link later, and I'll put it.
Yeah. It's liberlandfoundation.org. Yeah, but I'll shoot that to you.
Okay, cool. Yeah. I'm sure I can find it. So I want to become a citizen. I promise I will not steal anyone's Cheerios. Yeah, you got me.
I don't like Cheerios anyway, so it's okay.
You got me sold for someone that's in the world of blockchain every single day. It's a perfect place for me to pretend to live.
Yeah, it's really nice when you have just like the best of the best, the brightest minds in the blockchain world all working together to build their own country. So it's like, if your country is literally the #1 place for blockchain companies in a blockchain community, and with, especially here being in the US, how detrimental, all these laws and regulations are towards blockchain and stuff like that. If Liberland can be literally like the best hub for blockchain companies, how economically wealthy we would be. And, for all, understanding this decentralized movement, how huge that will be. So we will be the 3rd smallest country, but we will be the biggest voice in 21st century model of how blockchain governance should be. And it will be implemented, in all these other countries. Just small country, but big voice.
Awesome. I'm sure you're going to have a lot of people that are going to just keep coming in that want to get involved in some kind of way or get citizenship. So
it's tough work, as probably a lot of your fans, getting involved with, other blockchain startups and stuff like that. Like 98% of them fail, all those ICOs and all these DeFi coins out there, like 98% of them are going to fail. Obviously we're the only, project like this. And so since we're the only one, we have to make it successful, and hopefully those 2% that are doing successful projects and stuff like that, they're joining with us and, so.
Yeah. Well, I tell people all the time, because I mean, you'll see like 2,500, 3,000 different cryptocurrencies like on CoinMarketCap, and you're like, which one do I look at? Which one do I invest in? Which one is a good project? I'm like, just the one that's actually got volume and the one that's got a good team. It's like
just buy Bitcoin.
Which one do people believe in? That's reflected in volume, trade volume, and then which one is a good team? Which one's developing, doing good things? You have both of those two things over time. I mean, you're gonna do just fine. Again, it seems like you guys are on that track, so very excited.
Yeah, appreciate it, Brandon.
Anyways, I'm definitely going to get going in a few, but we had an awesome talk. This was great. I think a lot of people are gonna like this. So, good job.
Yeah. Thanks. Hopefully I didn't bore your audience, too much talking about the history and stuff like that, and then we got into the cool blockchain stuff afterwards. But
not at all.
It's hand in hand. It's hand in hand.
If they're listening to my podcast, they know every once in a while I'll bring someone on that's from a different, area in the tech industry, or a different area or different industry completely. But we always find a way to tie blockchain into it. So it's try to keep that balance. If you talk about Bitcoin all day long, it'll get boring. So you got to be interesting.
Yeah, you definitely don't want to be like a Bitcoin, like maximalist or anything like that.
No, and I know a lot of them, and they're great people, but it does get a little tiring if you do it every single day. So you got to mix it up.
Yeah, agreed, Brandon.
Awesome. Well, thanks for taking the time. Really appreciate it. Tell Kristen I say hi, and
yeah, of course.
We'll keep in touch.
All right, sounds good, Brandon.
All right, have a good day.
To Liberland.
To Liberland.
All right, bye.